Let's go back a little bit, shall we? I'm in Boston in 2004 during the convention, DNC convention, where they nominated John Kerry. And this tall, skinny guy with funny ears and a funny name comes out to give the introductory speech. And he's introduced as a state senator from Illinois who's running for U.S. senator. And what I'd heard is that he's a slam dunk likely winner of that race, which is why they brought him out. And he gave a speech that brought down the House. He said, there's no blue America, there's no red America, there's just one America, the United States of America. People went nuts. There's no black America, there's no white America, there's no Asian America, there's no Hispanic America, there's just one America, the United States of America. People went nuts. So I turned to my producer and I said, I don't know who this guy is. He's not saying anything but platitudes. I mean, anybody could have given that speech. But he gave it well. People received it well. I said, he's someday going to run for president, and someday he will be elected. I had no idea he'd run so quickly. I mean, after his second year in the Senate, he decided to run. Even he thought it was too soon at first. And when he ran in the 2008 election, he gave a speech or sermon at a black church and talked about how much racism there was still left in America. And he said the Moses generation, referring to the generation of Martin Luther King, has gotten us 90% of the way there. My generation, he referred to as the Joshua generation, has to get us that additional 10%. Now, I thought that was reasonable. I'll tell you why. There was a Fox poll some years before that found out 8% of America believes Elvis is still alive. I kid you not. And some percentage believes if you send him a letter, he will get it. So I said to myself, you have to pretty much write off 8%. There's nothing you can do about him. Brain dead, IQ 2 points above plant life. I don't know, dumb as a box of rocks. I don't know what you do with them. But 8%. So if he said we're 90% of the way there, and you factor in the Elvis factor, you're talking about maybe 2% of people that are still capable of being resurrected, being informed. So I thought that 90% was reasonable. That's the person America thought they hired. And when Obama won, he won with 52% of the vote. Nowadays, it's kind of a substantial margin, but 52% of the vote. When he walked into the Oval Office the third week of January 2009, do you know what his approval was? What his approval rating was? 70%. Now think about that. 70% before he signed any bill, before he signed any executive order? How can that be? It wasn't black people, because virtually everybody black voted for him except for the Uncle Toms and the sellouts like moi. No, it was 18% of whites who didn't vote for him, who now had a positive approval of him. And it wasn't because they wanted their taxes raised. Remember, he ran promising to raise the capital gains tax, and he did. He ran promising something like Obamacare. At the time, the war in Iraq was still supported at least by Republicans, and he opposed that. It wasn't because they supported his policies. It was because a bunch of people who didn't vote for him said, okay, I don't like his left-wing policies. Tax, spend, regulate, expand government. But for crying out loud, at least he will put a nail in the coffin of the idea that America remains systemically racist. How can America be systemically racist and elect a black guy named Barack Hussein Obama? How can that be? So both blacks and whites thought when Obama entered the Oval Office in 2009, race relations would improve. 8 years later, when he left, both blacks and whites thought race relations deteriorated. How? How, after being the first and only majority white country that elects a black president, can 8 years following that election, both blacks and whites feel that race relations got worse? Because Obama made them worse. From the Cambridge police acted stupidly, to if I had a son he looked like Trayvon, to embracing Black Lives Matter, to invoking Ferguson at a speech before the United Nations, to having America's preeminent race card hustler Al Sharpton visiting the White House over 80 times, to having an Attorney General Eric Holder who said when it comes to matters of race, America has been a nation of cowards. That's verbatim quote. And claiming that the real problem with America, said Eric Holder, his AG, who he described himself as Obama's wingman, voter ID is pernicious racism, said Eric Holder. That black criminals have longer sentences than white criminals is pernicious racism. Never mind, black criminals have longer conviction records than the average white criminal. And black boys being kicked out disproportionately compared to white boys in schools is pernicious racism. Never mind, black boys are acting out more. So this is what Obama left us with. And in Obama's second term, 2 officers were killed execution style in New York, 3 in Baton Rouge, 5 in Dallas, all by 3 different black men who either told friends or posted on media their belief that American police were systemically racist because of Obama's rhetoric and the Black Lives Matter rhetoric. So this man has made things worse, and by the way, he continues to make things worse.